So she ends up saving somewhere around $70,000 to $75,000 in interest. I would call that a win. But let's be clear, today is about building compound interest. But how much money did she make during this period? None. And I know what's coming. She no longer has a mortgage payment. But for those 17 years, where was her money working for? It wasn't. What are the vehicles she's leveraging to make sure her money's making money for? Other than her company's 401k, there isn't one. So what we wanted to do is kind of walk through an example comparing two individuals who make the same. And let's be clear, we've got Maria and we've got Daniel, and both of them make the same income. They're of the same age. They have the exact same cash flow. Their home values are the same. The total debt they have accumulated is absolutely the same, but their approach is a little bit different. One is focused on being debt-free. One is one of those baby steppers. The objective is to simply pay off that home as quickly as possible, put myself in a position to where I don't have any more debt so I can build and generate wealth after that. So it's the thought process of this. It's not a this and that type approach. It's once I finish my dinner, then I can have dessert. So it's a debt-free approach. The other is, where's my leverage located? Where's my leverage located today? And how can I put that leverage to work so that I can generate and build wealth? So the idea is focused on a family bank. And from an insurance perspective, that means, if I'm a baby stepper, it's buy term and invest the rest. So they've got a term policy of about $500,000 that they're contributing to, and they're maxing out their 401k. Daniel's doing the exact same, but the policy that he's focused on is a properly designed cash value life insurance product that builds cash value. So the only difference between these two individuals is their approach to debt. One is focused on making sure the home is paid off, the debt is gone. The other is, how can I leverage the debt and put it to work? And hopefully the objective is to make sure that what's clear here is, even though you may make the same in income, your approach is different. So therefore the outcome can be drastically different as well, based on how you put your money to work. And they both have the same goal of retiring at 65. So currently at the age of 40, retiring at 65, we've got a time horizon of about 25 years. Again, the only difference between these two individuals is how they view their debt. And in this case, their home, which for most of us is our largest asset. Again, for Maria, debt is a problem. Debt means danger. Debt means I need to get rid of it as quickly as possible because I wear this debt like an albatross. I wear this debt like a heavy weight. And the objective is to remove this weight as quickly as possible. I can't think straight. I can't function unless this debt is gone. And what's interesting about Maria, I run into a lot of Marias. And usually, if it's not the debt related to the home, it's the debt related to student loan. I have a lot of people who have paranoia around living with or having debt and what to do with it. And from Daniel's perspective, it's, how can I leverage the debt that I have as a tool? How can I leverage the home that I have as a tool and put it in a position to where it can now pay me back? That's the difference between the two individuals. And again, as I mentioned, they're in the same situation. They both have the same opportunity. Both have a home worth about $450,000 in total, meaning that's the appraised value. Which means if we're going from an 80% LTV perspective of the $180,000 that is currently sitting on the mortgage, there's about $270,000 in equity. And again, both individuals have the same opportunity. One is focused on getting rid of this home. The other is there an opportunity to leverage some of this equity now so that I don't have to work for the rest of my life? Is there an opportunity to leverage some of this equity now to put money to work and put myself in a position to where I can build and generate more? So again, they're both in the same position, but the objective is, from Maria's perspective, how can I pay off my home as quickly as possible? So let's just walk through her details a little bit. She's currently maxing out her 401k. She's putting $20,000 a year into her 401k. And from our perspective, and the objective is for the next 25 years, she's going to do so. She makes about, again, just from the detail, she makes about $120K a year. And so the objective is to take 20,000 of that and put that money to work inside of a maxed out 401k. And by the end of that 25-year period, by age 65, she would have accumulated about $1 million inside of her 401k. And just to kind of show and prove what that looks like, but from age 40 to age 65 is what we're doing. The income is right around $120,000 per year. And the objective is, again, to put away $20,000 in total annually into the 401k. And in addition, they already have accumulated in their 401k about $90,000. And again, both individuals are doing the exact same thing. And the rate of return, I'll put it at 7%. The average is right around 7%. So let's calculate. So again, 40 years of age till age 65, inside of a maxed out 401k, notice will produce somewhere around $1 million in total. And if we were talking about what does that look like as it relates to income, $1 million in income coming out of a 401k tied to the market, so a traditional 401k or an employer's retirement account like a 403b or a TSP, that $1 million translates to, it's based off the 4% rule, so it translates to $40,000 a year. So that's what it looks like from Maria's perspective on putting away that $20,000 annually or over time inside of her maxed out 401k. Sweetheart, if you slide back over to the Vibe board. In addition, the objective is to pay off the mortgage. So what's the plan? How do we plan on paying off the mortgage? Well, the objective is add an additional $500 a month. And so the objective is add an additional $500 a month to the already $1,000 a month mortgage payment. And so what's going to end up happening is that mortgage will end up being paid off in approximately 17 years. So we're talking about, I believe it's $240,000 is the original purchase price of the mortgage. And I think initially they were doing about a $50,000 lump is what was put in. And loan terms is 30 years, 4.25% is the interest rate. All right, so as I mentioned, and I'll zoom in on this, as I mentioned, the mortgage payment is somewhere around $1,000. And again, 30-year mortgage. And currently they're sitting in year 3. The mortgage amount, the mortgage balance is right around $180,000. So they're sitting here of $500 a month. And we want to start that $500 a month 3 years after the start of the mortgage, which would make that 2023. So again, $500 a month every year from this point forward to pay the mortgage off as quickly as possible. What does that look like? Notice here, the principal change happening in the first 3 years, not very much. It's about $3,000, $3,500 a year. But when she starts adding that $500 a month, look at how drastic this changes, how the amount of principal that she's eating into the balance of this mortgage starts to shift. And therefore, she ends up paying off this mortgage right around 17 years. So from age 40 plus 17 years, that's age 57, this mortgage is paid off. So she's accomplished her goal. Congratulations, Maria. By putting $500 extra a month onto her mortgage, she's gotten rid of this $1,000 a month payment. So at age 57, her cash flow increases, right? Her cash flow goes from what was originally $1,500 a month to now it's $2,500 a month. But I'm also 57 years of age. But that's the goal. The goal is to pay off the mortgage as quickly as possible. It is doable. She is not alone in her thought process. I would say she would be praised for her ability to be able to take what was a 30-year mortgage and pay it off in 17 years. Let's take a look at how much interest that would have saved her. So originally, she was on a path of spending about $150,000 total in interest had she done nothing. Had she just continued paying the mortgage as normal, she would have ended up paying an additional $150,000 in interest to the bank. While adding this $500 a month, instead of $150,000, the total interest paid was about $82,000. So she ends up saving somewhere around $70,000 to $75,000 in interest. I would call that a win. I think anyone would call that a win. But let's be clear. Today is about leverage. Today is about putting your money to work. Today is about building compound interest. And how do you do that? You take a leveraged dollar and you put it to work. How much compound interest was created here? What she did was she avoided some interest. She didn't save $70,000. Let's be clear. Because if she had saved $70,000, she'd have an extra $70,000 in her pocket. What she did was she avoided, it's called cost avoidance. She avoided paying an additional $70,000. But how much money did she make during this period? None. And I know what's coming. She no longer has a mortgage payment. So instead of $1,000 a month being paid out to a bank, she's now picked up an extra $1,000 in cash flow. So I agree with you. Her cash flow does improve. But for those 17 years, where was her money working for? Other than her 401k, where was her money working for? It wasn't. And in this specific example, she had $1,500 in cash flow. If she put $500 a month towards her mortgage, there is an extra $1,000 a month available there in cash flow. Well, she's using that $1,000 to continue paying off her other debts like car loan. I think it's a credit card bills, things like that. Like we all do, we're still putting a certain dollar amount in savings. So I'm not saying she's not doing anything over this 17-year period. What I'm asking is what are the vehicles she's leveraging to make sure her money's making money for? Other than her company's 401k, there isn't one. Maria's done I'll call it a fairly decent job of putting her $500 to work, paying off her mortgage in 17 years. And as I mentioned, she did get a 20-year term. Well, if she's 40 years of age today, we've been here many times. It's about velocity banking. And in this case, it's taking whatever that income is, $7,000 a year is the income. As that income comes in, the income goes into the checking account as normal. And that same income then gets dropped onto that debt tool. Remember, it's a $50,000 HELOC with a balance of 30K. So if I take all of my income and put it onto that debt tool, it immediately drops the balance of that $30,000 line of credit from $30,000 down to $23,000. But I've got bills to pay. Those bills, which means if my $7,000 went onto the line of credit and I ended up paying bills from the line of credit in the amount of $5,500, that remaining $1,500 in cash flow is what sits on this line of credit and pays down and or pays off that $30,000 line of credit. And now, for those of you who are velocity banking, I'll call it knowledgeable, why would I ever pay off this line of credit? Because you guys know I would not. But what I wanted to show you was if the part of the goal was to make sure there was no debt left on this line of credit, but you still wanted to use it to be able to provide the $10,000 annual premium ongoing, there's a path to doing so. And in essence, you would have zero balance on that line of credit before the 7-year mark. So what could you do at the 7-year mark? Continue paying your annual premium into your policy from the line of credit, $10,000, and then using your cash flow of $1,500 a month, $18,000 a year to pay down that line of credit, which means you're easily paying off that $10,000 you're using every year in under 10 months. And so the thought process around this is it's all about a mindset shift. What did Daniel do different compared to Maria? The only thing he did different was he leveraged his assets. He leveraged his home to be able to generate and build wealth. So what was the overall income? What were the results for Daniel at using that $30,000 lump sum? Sorry, $30,000 total in year one, $30,000 total in year two, plus an additional $10,000 every year from that point forward. And I wanted to look at this in two different sequences, meaning what did it look like from age 40 to 57? Why did I choose 40 to 57? Well, if we remember, but his cash value or his premiums are working for him. His contribution into this policy is actually building cash value. And God forbid, if something were to happen to him around age 65, he'd be passing on about $2.8 million to his beneficiaries, to his legacy, for his family bank. So not only is there a death benefit, but there's also about $1 million in liquidity that's available for his family bank. Again, what was the difference between these two? Maria focused on paying off her debt, whereas Daniel focused on putting his money to work, leveraging the number one asset that most of us have, and that is our home. And so from a side-by-side comparison, they both have retirement income. They both are still maxing out their 401k, but the difference in the two is Maria has her $40,000 plus Social Security and maybe the high yield savings account that she has as well. Whereas Daniel has about $147,000, and of that $147,000 in retirement income, 107 of that, again, 10% of that cash value that I showed, 10% of that is tax-free. So this $40,000 a year is also taxable, same as his $40,000 because it's the same retirement account, but the tax-free income is about $107,000 coming from this secure compound interest account that has cash value $1,045,000. So if you wanted to start taking a distribution from this cash value, it would be somewhere around $100,000 to $107,000 in tax-free income that he would be able to take. How about a mortgage? Where did we end up on Maria's mortgage by the age of 65? Well, she doesn't have one. She hasn't had one since 57. So she's sitting pretty there. But with Daniel, if we do the math, again, if he's just simply paying his mortgage, the normal $900 or $1,000 a month payment for the next 30 years, we're only 25 years in. Remember, we started this at age 40. So technically, he still has 5 years left on his mortgage. Do we care? Again, he's got a whole lot of options because he's also got this $50,000 home equity line of credit that he could have been chunking away at his mortgage, right? Again, the objective was there's so many different paths we can go down with this strategy, but the idea was, what if we just changed one thing? What are some of the and actions we could have taken? Meaning, it's not a only do this and this is the result. When we have leverage, there are many things we can do with this leverage. So you're absolutely correct. Couldn't he have used that $50,000 line of credit that had that 10-year draw on it that he would have had to have re-upped during this period? Couldn't he have used that to pay off the mortgage? 100%. And what does retirement look like for each of them? So if Maria was focused on paying off her debt and she's got this $40,000 a year in taxable income coming from her employer, I think we can agree she would need something else in place. If she was used to having $120,000 in income and her retirement is only replaced, a third of that, I think we can all agree there's an opportunity missed, or there's another vehicle that is required to be able to supplement that income. And with Daniel, regardless, he's got 107,000 tax-free, 48,000 starting at age 57 that he could have started taking. Imagine had he started taking that 48,000 at age 57 to use that to pay off his mortgage. On that note, sweetheart, because I think you're spot on with what else could he have done? From a legacy perspective, again, the goal is family bank. The goal is putting your assets in a position so that not just you are benefiting from it, but what does it look like for generations after you? So with the death benefit on the secure compound interest account that Daniel has in place, it's a no-brainer. He's got about, $2.8 million death benefit that's available if something were to happen, in addition to the $1 million in cash value that he could use today while he's still here. And then in leverage, the goal for Maria, I need to get rid of all of my debt. In getting rid of all of the debt, she missed an opportunity to be able to leverage, even from the perspective of paying off the home at age 57. What about the missed opportunity to simply use the home at that point even? And we'll kind of get into that later. And then again, the family bank opportunity. There was an opportunity missed for Maria, but Daniel, again, because he made one shift, he didn't go through and carte blanche, he raced his entire portfolio and jump head on into becoming self-directed and getting a self-directed 401k and getting a secure compound interest account, getting a first position HELOC, none of that. It was just, what if he just shifted or adjusted one aspect of what it was he was doing?